Hello and welcome to Affinity. Here's a thing that you can do using perhaps something you don't get used too much, but it has an effect and it can be artistic and it can be sort of just in improving photograph in some way. And so if I go to adjustments here and I go up to Posterize, Posterize does is it reduces the number of colors. So it just, if I go down to the bottom there, that's the minimum. As I go up, it very quickly, in fact the easiest way to do this is to roll the mouse wheel on this, so it's 3, 4, 5, you can see the way it's changing. You see the sky, because the sky is relatively subtle change, you can see this happening quite quickly. But if I go into somewhere like this tree over here, then, and I bring this down here, so you can see that as I roll this upwards here, very quickly, even at 9 levels here, it's just not changing at all. So what we can do with this is, let's leave that down, let's say half a dozen levels because it hasn't changed much here. Control 0 to go back out again for a moment, is I can force it to have a lot stronger effect by putting a blur on beforehand. So I go on here and just put in a Gaussian blur underneath that posterize. Now when I turn this up here, you can see the way it's blocking out quite quickly and it turns into just abstract shapes. If I want to avoid this bit around the edge, of course, I just click Preserve Alpha. But there we've got these shapes there, and we can use that as, if you like, just a representation. So that's an artistic effect in itself, or I can use it to blend it back in again. So I'll just come back out to some sort of level here. But what I've got now, if I blur this back in, what's going to happen is I'm going to see the edges of it. So I'd like to just blur the edges of these shapes that it's created. So I just go up here and put another blur above the posterize. And so I just turn this up there until it's kind of just softened. Preserve Alpha again to stop the funny things around the edge. There we go. I have, by the way, got up here assistant settings, and I've got add adjustment as new layer and filter as new layers so that they will appear above. It's just tidier when explaining things. But I can now get shift click the bottom one here, so I clicked all of them, and right click here or Control G just to group them together, because I can now blend this back in again without having copied the original layer. So I can just go down to here and just look at the effects you have, and you immediately have a range of quite interesting effects on this, and some of them useful, some are not, as always. But let's just go down to soft light and look at the effects before and after. It's quite subtle, isn't it? But you can have a stronger effect in this, so I can just open this up. Let's just go back up here just to normal here so I can see what's happening. I'm going to take off the top one here and just go to Posterize, and I'm going to take this down right the way to the bottom, because if I'd like the top of the hedge here to be yellow, let's just turn this up a little bit here. As I turn that up, now I'm just actually going to keep that all the way down to 2 to blend this in here, blur the top on this, and then go back up here and let's see what I can do with the soft light on this. You can see I've got quite a interesting effect in here, this blurred here. But then if I zoom into this here, this is a bit weird here, so let's just try playing with the blurs on this. You can see the way this is changing the size of those group areas. If I turn that right down, you can see that there's dark areas. So what I'd like to do is just to emphasize those darks. So I'm only using these now, looking at where I'm going with this. If I go to the top one now, I can also play with this here and just bring it up maybe to where it's just subtly affecting it rather than a blurred effect. So just a little bit up here. Go to the posterize. Note each time to switch I click on the icon, not on the name here. Let's see if I can just roll the mouse wheel here to change this. I think 2 is actually okay on this. So Control 0 to go back out again. I've got this effect, but this is still rather strong, isn't it? So I can go to the group and just quite simply turn down the opacity. So I can go right down to the bottom and then turn it up until I quite kind of like the more subtle effects that's happening with it. If it's doing things I don't particularly like, I can soften these effects by going down to the mask, right click the mask and just have an ordinary mask, or just click once on the mask. And I can now go to a paintbrush here, go to black to paint away things, and I'll go here, opacity 60%, so I can do it a couple of times just to soften it. I can preview it on here, so I'm going to click that just a couple of times there, just a little bit on here. Maybe I just don't want it on the top at all, so I'm going to turn that to 100% and just paint all the way across there to mask out any effect in the sky itself. So there we go. I've gone from this to this, just adding a bit more strength in certain colours and the way that it works. That's it, and thank you very much for watching.